Alright, Brush Monkeys, welcome back. This week we're starting in on some more figures from the Conquest Games Norman Footsoldiers box. This time we're starting in on the unit of Huscarls that I've built. These are the guys with the round shields and axes, probably fairly close to Vikings. And they don't all have round shields. A couple of them have little kite shields like this. I think, yeah, one, well, I take that back, that's a heater shield. This is a kite shield. So I got one guy with that, I got two guys with the heaters. One's on his back, one's in his hand. Get that guy. And I've got 12 guys in this unit, which is kind of unusual for me because I'm used to working in 10-man units, and this one had... because I had that extra sprue in the box, I ended up with 2 extra figures. So I ended up with 2 guys, 2 extra Huscarls. So I got 12 Huscarls and 24 Fearedmen total. So I'm going to do these guys in 2 groups of 6, which is why I've got 6 of them on the handles and 6 of them kind of off to the side here. Going to go through and base coat all the ones on the handles first, and then go through and base coat all the other guys, and then we're going to dip all 12 of them because I've got enough corks to do all 12 at once. But I want to get the base coats on them first. These are going to be done pretty much the same way as the Warlord and his retinue from a couple of weeks ago, you may remember. Just going to base coat them all and then dip them in the quick shade dip, and then we'll come back and matte seal them, flock the bases, all that kind of thing, and they'll be done. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and get started on these guys. I'm going to pause here, and we'll come back when I've made a little progress. Alright? See ya. Alright, update time. And as you can see, I've got the batch painting base coats done on the first 6. By batch coating base coats, I mean all the colors that are common among all of them. The steels, the leathers, like their axe handles, their leg wraps, their pants, backs of their shields, that kind of thing. Any armor they're wearing, their sword hilts, all that kind of stuff. With these 2 guys, I decided to experiment a little bit and paint their hair. I did one as a ginger and one as a blonde. I've got their skin tones all done. So I'm going to go ahead and swap these 6 out for the other 6. Base coat, batch coat them. Batch paint, base coat them. If I can talk. And then we'll start working on their heraldry and figure out the rest of their color schemes as I go along. The one base coat I haven't done, batch painting wise, is the green. I'm going to do that when I get all of them done and get their heraldry done and everything, because that's going to be their bases. It's going to go around their feet, so it's going to be the last thing I want to do with them. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and swap these guys out for the other 6 and batch paint base coat them. I can't get that done. I can't get that right. So stick around and see how many times I screw that up. So I'll see you later. Alright, update time. I have finished the batch painting base coats of all of the Norman Huscarls now. So they are all the colors that appear on all of them are all painted on all of them now. And what's left to paint on these guys now is the individual heraldry, their shield designs, their tunic colors, the colors that are going to be unique to each one of them, and that's going to take quite a bit longer to get into that. I've also got the green basing to do, but that's going to have to wait until the rest of it's done. So this step is going to require me doing a little bit of research, figuring out what colors I want to use on what guys, what shield designs I want to use on the guys. The 2 guys with heater shields might even get transfers rather than try to freehand a design on there. I don't know. I'll have to see what I can find. But yeah, it's going to take a little longer to get into that. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll get into that in a little bit. I'll come back when I've got half the guys' colors done and show you what they look like and show you what I'm aiming for. But my goal is to have all 12 of these guys have unique color schemes and unique heraldry, to where, like, even if two guys are using green and white or blue and white or purple and white or whatever, the patterns are different, and the where they're painted is different. So like I said, I'm gonna go do half of them, and then I'll come back and see what I can come up with for the other half. Oh, excuse me. And I will see you guys in a bit. All right. Alright, Brush Monkey's progress time. As you can see, I've got the shields done on half of the Fearedmen here. Or, excuse me, the Huscarls. Yeah, so half the shields are done on the Huscarls. And I wanted to show you this. This is the Color Studies book that I've brought up in past videos. And I mentioned that this was a great way of doing freehands and things like that. It's also a great way of keeping track of the different shield designs that I've done. Like, I looked up Norman shield designs and Norman heraldry online, and then I figured out for the two casualties, the Warlord and his retinue, all the Huscarls, the Fearedmen here and here, and what shield designs I was going to do. And then the shield design will determine the color scheme on the figure itself. And you can see I'm just putting a little check mark next to each one that's already done. So, like, I've got this little Celtic knot work done on this guy. This guy's shield. Good example of the heraldry dictating the colors. You can see I've got this guy's shield is party color green and white, and so I gave him a green tunic with a white under tunic. Need to touch up a couple of those little spots there, but same with this guy. He's got red and yellow shield, so he's got red tunic, yellow under tunic, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I've still got 6 other designs to do on these guys, and I'm going to go ahead and pause and get those guys done. I still haven't painted the bases of them. I think what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to go ahead and paint all the heraldry and paint all the tunics and everything, and then dip them, and then after the dip settles and dries on them, then I'll do the base band, or do the bases right before I do the flocking on them. That way I'm not getting the dip all over the base, or all over the green base, like I did with the Warlord and his retinue. And I think it'll just help it look a little neater that way when I get to doing the flocking. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I'm going to go ahead and do the other 6 Huscarls and their heraldry, and then I think these guys will be ready for the dip. Alright, see you soon. Bye. Alright, I'm back, and I've got all the heraldry done on these guys, and got all the tunics and under tunics painted on them, and they look really good. I really like how these guys are coming out. I'm going to go ahead and stir up the dip now, and I think unlike the last time where I actually dipped the figures and then shook it off, I think this time I'm going to brush it on, and that's because a couple of these guys, I've already had the arms break off on them because they just weren't glued on right, so I've had to clean it up and glue the arm back on, and I don't want to risk damaging that connection by shaking the figure and just have an arm go flinging off somewhere where I can't find it. So I'm going to go ahead and stir up the dip. You see I've got my little battery powered stirrer here, and I'm going to stir it up, and then I've got an old paintbrush that I'm going to use to brush it on instead of dipping it like last time. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back and we'll go from there. Alright, see you soon. Alright, the Huscarls are all shaded, and they're looking alright. I noticed while I was painting this that I think the biggest difference between using the quick shade as a dip versus using it as a as brushing it on is that the amount of control you have in brushing it on is quite a bit greater than just dipping it. You have more control about where it goes and how much is on there, and whether or not it's obscuring any details, that kind of thing. And really, when you go to dip it and you shake off the excess, you kind of need to brush off the excess anyway. So I figure as long as you're brushing it off anyway, you might as well just brush it on in the first place. It looks better, it looks cleaner, you got a lot more control over it. I think these guys are going to come out looking better actually than the Warlord and his retinue that were dipped. I will say that with the Quick Shade dip versus the Strong Tone ink, that's the color match for this. This is quite a bit thinner than this, and this does not have, this is acrylic, so it can be cleaned up with water. It doesn't have the varnish aspect of it that this has. So this is a really quick and easy way of doing it too, but if you're doing a lot of models like this and you're kind of slopping it on, might as well go with the Quick Shade dip, because you get this big ass can instead of the little bottle, and it'll go a lot further. So yeah, so those guys are all varnished up and quick shaded, and now I got to let it sit for 48 hours to let them dry. So the next time I come back, they'll be done, and we'll matte seal them, and we'll actually when we come back, we'll paint the bases on them, and then we'll matte seal them, and then put the flock on them, and these guys are done. So they're coming along pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and stop now, and next time you see these guys, it'll be time to get back to work. All right, see you soon. Bye. All right, so progress time. As you can see, the excuse me, the Quick Shade wash has set up pretty nicely on these guys, and they're looking pretty good and a little bit shiny. And as you can see, I've also painted their bases. So all that's left on these guys now is to matte seal them with the Army Painter Anti-Shine. That's the stuff right there that we're using. That'll knock that gloss off of them, and they won't look quite so sleek. And then and that's what I'm putting them on the corks for now, is to go ahead and matte seal them. And then after they're matte sealed, we'll flock them. And it occurs to me that I haven't actually showed you guys how to flock miniatures, or even what that's all about. So I'm going to go into a little mini tutorial on that when we come back, and show you all about flocking your bases and what flocking is and all that. So I will see you guys in a little bit. Alright, the Huscarls are matte sealed with the Army Painter Anti-Shine, and it's time for the quick and dirty tutorial on flocking. Flocking is just a way of putting grass and stuff onto the base. Instead of using texture paint, you're using this stuff, which is essentially like shredded foam, and this was like a mix of shredded foam that's been dyed green, and sawdust, and I think a little bit of sand in there. There's a couple of different colors in there, but this is just, you can buy this stuff at model railroad shops. Comes in a little bag, comes in a lot of different colors, a lot of different textures and thicknesses. This is the stuff that I've been using because it works nicely for this. And it's really easy to put on. It's just, you use some white glue. I use just plain old Elmer's white glue. And then there's two different ways you can put it on there, which, let me get the glue out here. Just put a little bit of glue on your palette. If you can get it to cooperate at all, squeeze that shit out. There we go, that'll be enough for all these guys. Wipe off the excess there. Wipe off the tip. Always wipe off the tip. That's why I have this problem with this thing. Alright, so all you're going to do is you're going to take an old brush, which I've got a couple of brushes here that I use just for doing flocking and attaching basing stuff, like the tufts and things like that. I'm not going to put any tufts on these guys because their bases are kind of small compared to the rest of the figure, so there's not a whole lot of room there. But I use this brush for that, and I use I've got a slightly larger version of it that I use for doing scenery and things like that, or large bases. So all you do, like I said, you just take a little bit of the glue, stringy as hell, and just paint it on the base, all around the guy's feet. I don't worry too much about getting it on the feet. I know a lot of places tell you, be real careful when you get close to the feet, because you don't want to get it on the feet. You actually kind of do want to get it on the feet a little bit, because that makes the difference between the person standing on the ground and the person being in the scenery. And, you know, when you stand in grass, you're not standing on top of the grass, you're standing kind of in it a little bit. So you take that, and then, like I said, there's two different ways you can apply it. I use, I've got these measuring spoons that I bought at, I think it was a place called the Spice Merchant in Wichita, Kansas. And they've got things like dash, tad, pinch, smidge, drop. I've only ever used the drop. And you just take a little bit of it, sprinkle it on the base there. Keep going. All around the base to get the base covered. And then, like I said, get the whole base covered. And then you just tap off the excess. And I like to wipe off the base band. I like the base bands to be fairly clean, so I tend to not flock the base bands if I can help it. But there you go. There's one guy done. You see, he's, zoom in on him a little there. He's all flocked up. He's ready to go. He's good to go. All right. And I just realized as I zoomed in on him, I missed a little spot. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you miss a spot. You just go back in, stuck a little more glue on there. And boom, he's done. There, see? Ah, come on. Not cooperating at all. There you go, problem solved. So that's all it takes. That's one method of doing it, and it's just sprinkling the flock on the base. You don't have to use a little spoon like this. You can just use your fingertips and pinch a little bit and spread it on there. If you can find a little spoon like that, great. If not, you know, it's not that big a deal. The other method is a little bit quicker and easier. And again, I'm just going to grab a guy. It's done almost the same way. You just paint the glue on the base. All around the base. Just really slop it on there. Don't have to be real neat about this step. Try not to get any, you know, glue on higher up than the feet, because I mean the guy's not going to be up to his knees in grass, but you want to get a fair amount on there. Okay, and then when you've got the guy, just dip him directly into the flock. Just scoot it around, tap off the excess, wipe off the base bands. Wipe off any spots on the bottom of the base that you got something sticky on there for some weird reason. Blow off any big chunks that aren't cooperating. And there you go. There's the paint and dip method. That's all it takes. You just swirl them around in there a little bit. And you get some, paint some glue on there, swirl them around on the grass, and you're done. And you can do that for pretty wide variety of flocking. They make a lot of different kinds of flocking. I've got some red and yellow stuff that kind of look like autumn colors for when I want to do like a fall scene. I've got some white flock for when I want to do snow. And I kid you not, it's just white powder. And I've even got some black flock that's used when I want to do like asphalt kind of stuff. And I've used that on the bases of my bikers occasionally. So there you go. Two different methods of doing flocking. I'm going to go ahead and finish these guys up, and next time you see them, they're going to be completely done. And we're going to call it a day. Alright? So we'll see you later. Bye. And our Huscarls are done. Bases are all flocked, they're all matte sealed, they look really, really good. I'm really liking these guys. I don't do a whole lot of historical figures in my repertoire. I mostly do a lot of fantasy and Warhammer 40k and futuristic stuff like that, so doing historicals has been kind of an interesting break for me. After this we have 2 units of Fearedmen, which are the guys with the spears and shields, and then we're done with the Normans. Next week I'm going to have a palette cleanser painting a Reaper Bones black dwarf. It's the Reaper Bones black, not black dwarf. It's the little harder plastic stuff they have. But I've got a nice little palette cleanser for that, and then we'll get started on the Huscarls the week after. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and call these guys done, put them with the rest of the army, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks for watching. Bye. Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom from Flying Monkey Studios here. If you like what you see, click like. If you want to find out when new videos get posted, click subscribe. Comment below what you want to see on future videos. Visit our Patreon site for lots of ways that you can support me in doing what I do. You can also visit our Instagram and Facebook pages to see all the miniatures that I paint on this channel, and see how you can get your hands on one of your own. So thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for watching my videos, and I will see you guys later. Bye.